Now, we're very happy to say that Bryan Robson is in Dublin ahead of the launch of Carling's Play on a Premier League Pitch experience. So Carling are giving Irish fans the chance to win an experience of a lifetime and play a match on a Premier League pitch. So if that sounds like a good thing to do, visit facebook.com/Carling Ireland. Bryan Robson, very welcome to the studio.
Thanks very much, Joe.
It's not a bad competition, actually.
It's an amazing competition, isn't it? To be able to play, what a chance for the Irish fans to be able to play on a Premier League pitch.
I was involved in one of these before and did Anfield. Manchester United fan growing up, but did Anfield.
Right.
It was beautiful. It was an amazing thing. I was shocked at how hard the Anfield pitch was. I don't know, was it like that in your day? But apparently Brendan Rodgers wanted a really hard, fast pitch around that time.
I think what they normally do at the end of the season, they don't really water it that much. So then if they have loads of pitch side stuff going on with the sponsors and that,
mugs like me.
The pitch doesn't get cut up badly, because I do quite a few things with our sponsors at Old Trafford at the end of the season, and like some of the other legends, and we play with like competition winners and all that sort of thing. But it's good fun.
Yeah. So what is life now, generally? Are you still an ambassador with the club?
Yeah, ambassador with the club, role which I really enjoy. That's why I haven't gone back into management. It's a bit less stressful. I get time to go on holiday when I want to go on holiday, and look after the grandkids when I want to look after the grandkids. So it's good, but it's all sorts. I either do match days every home game. I've got to work at Old Trafford, but then it's going abroad and, either meet and greeting people, press conferences for a new competition or whatever, soccer schools. So it's a nice variety of a job.
Okay. Because I was going to ask you about the managerial career in some ways. I read an interview you did with Donald McRae a number of years ago. It was around the time maybe you'd got the West Brom job post Middlesbrough, and Jerome was saying to him, it was amazingly shocking when the phone suddenly stops ringing and you think, God, what have I done so badly wrong here? Especially post Middlesbrough when things had gone well. And people will remember the West Brom season where you kept them up, the first time a side bottom at Christmas had stayed up.
Yeah.
It's funny, that managerial merry-go-round. Some fellas seem to stay on it for quite a long time. For others, the phone can stop ringing quite quickly.
Yeah, no, I've been offered jobs, since, and then with taking the Thailand job on for a couple of years, which was really enjoyable. And if I hadn't have had the illness, I might still have been in that job.
Okay.
But I just felt it was unfair on the children that I was living in Thailand when I had the illness, and so I decided to resign from the job and come back. But that was 12 years that I'd had in management. And, for me, when David Gill offered me the job at United, I said, let me give it a go and see if I enjoy it. And I really did enjoy it. And you stay in touch with the players. So you get a little bit of the banter around the training ground. When you go on pre-season trips, you're involved, and then working match days, you still get to see the players. Okay, it's a little bit different, and there's certain things you do miss. Like setting out a team, that banter around a training ground. You miss that type of thing. But then there's the other side where you've got to deal with the media every day and problems that maybe one of the players has got, and you've got to help them out. You don't particularly miss that.
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure. And the stress of wondering, will I be here next year, which most managers have to live with as well. So you did certainly enjoy management, and maybe but for the illness you might have stayed on. I would promise I won't dwell on it overly long, but seeing as you mentioned it, did the illness come completely out of nowhere? Just one day you're going along about your business and the next you're very ill?
It certainly did. I just had a clicky cough, kept coughing, and then I was sucking lozenges because I thought I just had a little bit of a sore throat. And then within a week, this tumour had grown on my throat. Went to the hospital. As soon as the surgeon looked at it, the specialist, he just said, I'm sorry to tell you, Mr. Robson, but that looks like a cancerous tumour. And so it came out of there, but thankfully I had great treatment in Bangkok. And everything's fine now.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, Captain Marvel, 90 caps for England and Premier League medals and all that business. When a doctor says the cancer word, world still stops.
Yeah, it was a big shock because in Thailand as well, being the national team manager, it's a little bit different to England or European jobs, where you've maybe got meetings, you've got seminars, you've got soccer schools and all that. In Thailand, all they wanted me to do was just run the team. So I had a lot of spare time to myself and the wife. So I was in the gym every morning and that felt really fit.
Right.
So it was a bit of a shock when I went to the hospital.
Yeah, I can imagine. People often say when they get that diagnosis and they hear the cancer word, they don't really take in the rest of the conversation. It's a bit of a blur.
Yeah, I think the main thing is, talking about it is that early diagnosis. Everybody I spoke to about my situation and that, they just said, Brian, if you're ever doing publicity about it, just get it out there. Early diagnosis is really important to the medical side of it, and if people want to survive it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Does it change your perspective in life in any great way afterwards? Do you have a new zest for it, a new appreciation for it, or is that a cliche?
I think it maybe did to a certain degree. Maybe that's why I haven't gone back into management, and I just felt I want to enjoy my family life, going on holidays, babysitting the grandkids, but still obviously being involved in football and working. So I think it maybe did just sort of sway me a bit that I wanted to do that rather than be a full-time manager again.
Priorities, I suppose, ultimately. Speaking of management, you came through under John Giles, who's a regular on this station. He's on every Thursday, and he's been doing so since about 2002 or so. So I couldn't not ask you about Giles. So when you come through and he's player manager at West Brom, obviously he knows what he's doing in central midfield. He's a good person to learn from. What were your impressions or memories of coming through under Giles?
No, well, John was a great football person, very good manager, and he got the best out of the West Brom boys when he was in. I mean, it was a good learning process for me because I had a great coach in Don Howe when he was manager at West Brom, and so Don taught me a lot as far as how to work hard and practice. Where John came in, and John was more understanding the game, and he played me all over the place. I mean, under John, I think I played centre half, I played left back, I played centre of midfield, I played wide left midfield, and he said it was a great education for a young player, and that's why he played me in all different sort of positions. But I was quite happy as long as I was in the first team. That's all I was bothered about.
Funny, they do that at Dutch academies. They'll move players right around the pitch, different positions. Even the star striker will have to do a stint back at centre half.
Yeah, it does. It gives you an education to the game and what your teammate in that position would like. So it is an education for you if you are moving about. But then after a while of doing that education, I think nearly every player has a favourite position, and that's the place where you want to play. Yeah,
and when you say Giles really understood the game, that's something I hear a lot of players or managers say about him.
Yeah, well, I think you obviously have a natural talent for that, but obviously playing in a great Leeds team, which Johnny did, plus he was at Manchester United before that. He had a great understanding of the game, and he made certain positions quite simple because we had two great centre-halves, John Wyle and Ali Robertson, real out-and-out defenders, tough lads, and that gave us a great base. But John just wanted to keep the game simple for them, and so he told those two in no uncertain matters, well, when you get the ball and you win it, just give it to the midfield players who can play. And so that always made me laugh when he'd say that to John Wyle and Ali Robb. And but both of them took it on board, and they thought, yeah, but we can't spray about 40-yard passes like Johnny can, or some of the other midfield players, Len Cantello and people like that. So we'll just do what he says.
Hey, look, it's better than getting the ball and hoofing it aimlessly up the pitch, you know? Give it to
that's
the midfielder,
right.
Sounds good to me. So if you're doing your ambassadorial work, you're around the club and you're seeing the players. This is probably an unfair question to ask, because I appreciate you're an ambassador, so it's probably slightly unfair. I'll ask it anyway, and you can dodge it, and we'll move on. You must look on as somebody who went about your business in a no-nonsense way and kept things in-house and were professional, the way you went about your business. You must look at some of the public histrionics of Mourinho currently, with Luke Shaw, with his talk about heritage, with his various things, and raise an eyebrow, to say the least.
Yeah, I think what's sort of come across now, when Jose Mourinho first came into the country, he was very good with the media, and there was that humorous side. But because of maybe his criticisms, maybe his people letting him down with the way they criticise him when he doesn't have success, then he's maybe took that on board a bit, and he comes across now that he doesn't really give much away in a press conference because he dislikes the media because of the way they've been with him.
It's a very spiky relationship right now.
Yeah, so he comes across like that. The only thing I'd say on the other side, you know, maybe he thought he was going to get the best out of Luke Shaw when he's criticised him in public. Chris Smalling and Phil Jones came in for it as well. Paul Pogba, to a certain degree, got a bit of criticism not long ago. And maybe he's done that. But yeah, like you say, in my day, and you know, even when you're under Sir Alex Ferguson, the thing was, you can criticise anybody as much as you want when it's in the dressing room, but it's not very often you ever do it in public.
Yeah, it's been quite striking. When you're watching Pogba, so funny we mentioned John Giles, who knew a thing or two, and Graham Souness would be of a similar mind. They look at Pogba and the talent is obvious, the things he can do in the ball is obvious, he can, you know, muster something out of nothing. They feel he doesn't understand the midfield position fully. Is that a fair criticism? When you're watching at Old Trafford?
You know, I think he actually understands the game well, Paul. And right. you know, people can try and kick him, and he'll take it, and he'll still go back and want the ball. And he has got fantastic ability, like the lads say. I just think sometimes I look at Paul, and you look at social media and everything, and he's on there a lot, and he's you know, laughing and joking, and you know, he likes to be sort of in that limelight, coming across that he's a laid-back character, and your buddy's jovial, and he wants a bit of banter with the fans. Yeah. For me, though, it's a little bit too much, and it's, you need to win. It's not a game. You know, so that's where somebody like myself, or a Roy Keane, or Graham Souness, those sort of people, a Gary Neville when he's commentating, you know, we understood that the hardened pros that we were brought up with, this isn't a game, by the way, this is our living, and we need to win. And I think Paul's got to get that a little bit more into his character, that this is a job. Because
I don't know if you saw Christophe Dugarry, the World Cup winner with France, was given out about him in France over the weekend because they lost to Colombia in a friendly, and straight after the game there's what's called the Pog series, which is his latest thing, where he's kind of behind the scenes in his life, kind of a build up to the World Cup kind of a show, and Dugarry, not dissimilar to the point you've made, is saying, look, just lost to Colombia, you were anonymous for an hour, is what Dugarry said, and you're bringing out whatever the hell this is afterwards on television. Like, someone needs to give you a shake here and reassess your priorities, is kind of the message. Do you come across him much when you're around Old Trafford?
Yeah, I do. When I go into training,
seems very likeable.
He is. He's a great lad, but you know, Dugarry has got a point, and that is the point. And for me, it's only a small change.
Okay.
It's not about enjoy. It is about enjoying it, but it's not fun. It's a job, and you need to win, because that's what the Man United fans expect, and the French fans.
I'm sure. Do you feel defensively, when they don't have the ball, he's on top of things and he's reading the game well?
No, I think he can do a little bit better on that. But for me, I wouldn't want to take away from Paul that attacking and the vision that he's got to hit a pass. So that's why, for me, we've had the best out of him when Jose has played a solid sort of 4-3-3 with Matic sitting, and then Pogba being able to be allowed to go and do what he wants to do. You know, and especially when Herrera's on the other side of Matic as well. I've always felt that that's a real strong midfield when United have played that. But obviously Herrera's been injured quite a lot this season, so it hasn't materialised too many times, that midfield.
Yeah, we've seen Matic and Pogba not quite working, and Mourinho dragging him over to the sideline at times, and pointing and it not quite working.
Yeah, I don't think it really works with a two with Paul. I think he gets more freedom if you're playing a three in there.
Yeah. Not to make anyone feel old, we're sitting on the Premier League trophy. The actual Premier League trophy is sitting between us. And I suppose it's 25 years now. It's the anniversary of 92-93, not to make you feel too old. And
it flies by.
The famous image I think a lot of Manchester United fans would have is you and Steve Bruce lifting the trophy and those white baseball caps on, and 26 years and all that. That was probably a tough season for you. Looking back, you were injured a huge amount. But, I mean, it was the start of a revolution, and you got to see Ferguson mould whatever Manchester United were in the 80s, which was still not a bad side by any means, into the giant they became.
No, well, it was. I mean, it was steady progress, but everybody in the club could see the way Sir Alex was changing the club. And then when he brought Brian Kidd and Nobby Stiles in to help with the youth development side of it, you could see things were improving. And that's the way the club went. I mean, 1990... to win the FA Cup, give the young lads who the boss had signed the confidence to go on. Then 91, winning the European Cup Winners' Cup was a great performance, after 5 years out of Europe. To come back and beat Barcelona, who were a top team at that time. But then, the 92-93 season was brilliant. After 26 years winning the title, and Sir Matt Busby, still being alive to witness that was great for him. So everything about that year was probably my favourite year because of that, and then winning the title myself. But then 93, 94, even better season, going on to win the double, and with the signing of Keane and Cantona, the club were really going forward. Yeah,
Cantona arrived that November, and then Keane was
the year before.
Yeah. And Keane was the British transfer record very famously at the time. What did you make of this young, slightly shy, slightly chubby looking Roy Keane arriving? Because he went on to obviously do remarkable things. Could you see the talent was there? Obviously, if he was a record transfer signing, it was obvious. Yeah. But he settled in quickly from memory.
You could see it. I'd played against Roy a few times, when he was at Forest. And the boss and some of his staff were talking about him in the coach's room, and we were having a cup of tea. And they were discussing Roy, and the boss just wanted, other people's ideas, and because he was really wanting him.
Right.
And I just, over the cup of tea, I said to the boss, I've played against him, and he's one of the best young players I've played against in midfield. I says, I wouldn't even hesitate in signing him.
What did you like about him?
He had a bit of everything. Roy was quick. He was a good size. He was good in the air, good tackler, good vision with his passes, could score a goal. So he had a little bit of everything.
Was he a touch shy when he arrived?
Yeah, he was quiet. But most young lads are.
That was a team of real men, tough men in that around that time at United as well.
Yeah, around about that time we had strong characters. Yeah, with Schmeichs and then Brucey and Polly, Dennis Irwin.
Yeah.
They all had their own peace of mind. Mark Hughes, Brian McClare, so it was like. And then you've even got the young lads like Giggsy, strong mentality. but quite quiet at that time. But you could see like a desire to win and a strong mentality, and that's what Roy had. So the only young one I've ever seen who wasn't that way was Incy, because he was a governor.
Big time Charlie.
Oh, he called himself the governor.
Strolled in.
But yeah, Incy was full of it and everything. But it was good because it was a little bit more of a different type of character.
Sure.
And you know, that's what makes teams. You know, people having different characteristics.
Do you know what? You mentioned Irwin, and we always bring up Roy with former Manchester United players who play with him. And like, God, in a ridiculous way, for a country this small, we can underestimate Irwin and what he did. I know you rated him hugely highly. I've seen you say that before.
Dennis, class player.
Yeah.
You know, fantastic. For me, when people say best United team ever, Dennis always gets in there left back with me.
The silent assassin, I saw you call him as well. Someone asked you in one of these kind of Q&A things, give me your hard men, and you listed off the usual suspects, and then at the end you threw in Dennis Irwin. And I thought, really?
Yeah, well, if you look back, Dennis hardly's ever got injured. That's because he knew how to look after himself.
Right. Get in first.
Yeah.
Or maybe get in second.
Yeah, or be cute about it, and Dennis was very cute about it.
It's too simple a question, I appreciate, but what made Ferguson great? What were his biggest abilities? And was it obvious to you when he first joined in the 80s as still a relatively young manager post Aberdeen? Was it obvious to you this guy was particularly special, or did he surprise you as time went on?
No, you could. Well, obviously he surprised you because of how well he actually did in there, because nobody could see that vision.
Yeah.
But for me, there's loads of characteristics what made the boss a great manager.
But for me, you still call him the boss, I'm noticing.
Oh yeah, all the lads I think who played for him all call him
the boss still. Right, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted anyway.
No, but I think probably his two main characteristics which stand out, his man management with the players was excellent, so he'd get the best out of them.
So that's clearly not just hairdryer treatment, rah, 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 scream, scream, scream.
Yeah, everybody wants to talk about the hairdryer treatment because everybody thinks it's a special thing, but it wasn't very often he did that. And even when he did do it, it was mainly with young lads trying to find out about the character of them. And so, yeah, he had a lot more than just the hairdryer treatment, you know. So sometimes when you thought you weren't going to get, or you thought you'd played well, and all of a sudden you'd get it off him, and then the time where you think, oh, I didn't play so well today, I hope he doesn't have a go at me and all that, and the next minute he'd be arm around you on the training pitch going, look, you know, I just feel that you need to sort this out and you'll be back on track.
So instinctively he could spot.
Yeah.
Bryan Robson doesn't need to kick up the ass today, and he'd give the arm around the shoulder. He could spot that.
Yeah. So he was really good at that type of thing with all the lads, because all lads have got different characters, and you get the best out in the best way you see it. But then also you've got to look at his scouting system, and he rebuilt 3 teams at Man United to keep the success going. So actually to build 3 teams without missing out too much. I mean, there was a couple of years where the club didn't win anything when he was sort of making those changes. You know, his scouting ability to see a player and fit into his team was outstanding from him and his staff.
It's hard to teach someone that, isn't it? That's just someone's eye to spot.
It's just a talent to look at a player.
Yeah. And then a final point or so, I guess your exit, and even you think like there was a period, I remember, a lot of people I'm sure do, when obviously you went to Middlesbrough, and I suppose, you know, the clock was ticking for you, and that was maybe fair enough, and then Ince went, and then Chelsea went, and then Mark Hughes went, and people thought, what the hell is going on here? Obviously not understanding how good the class of 92 were. What was your experience of those lads? Like, the word is they would have trained with you and had training matches with you towards the end of your career there, I'm sure. Yeah,
well, because I was sort of a squad player that second year, and so I was playing in the reserves quite a bit with Scholesy and all that class of 92. But you could say they were an outstanding team. I mean, they'd won the FA Youth Cup. United hadn't won the Central League title for like years and years. I'm not quite sure how many years it was again, but they broke that as well, and they won it really comfortable. But you could see the quality and the mentality, the strong mentality that most of them had. So you could see they were going to be good players. So Sir Alex had that vision of being able to notice that, and he knew he had to clear the boards to be able to get them into the team. And so that's what he did after the double winning team, 93-94. He cleared the boards. The only thing I ever say to the gaffer is how I went to Middlesbrough that year, won the title there and got back into the Premiership. I said, you didn't win anything that year, boss, did you? He drives him crazy. He usually slaps me around the back of the head.
Would you still see him from time to time around the club?
Yeah, I see him because the boss's passion is horse racing. So now and again we go horse racing, and then I obviously see him at Old Trafford when we're at the game.
Yeah.
But he's okay. He just relaxes and watches the game. I've got to work.
Good. Well, proper order. Listen, thanks so much for coming in. It's lovely to talk to you and pick your brain on different things. And I'm sure people will be entering that competition in their droves to play on a Premier League pitch. Again, if you want to enter, you can go to facebook.com/Carling Ireland. Bryan Robson, pleasure.
Thanks very much, Joe.
Hey, hope you enjoyed that latest offering from Off the Ball. If you want to subscribe, and you should, check out just up here. All our latest stuff is just down here. Generally, knock yourself out.